nice and warm when we got here.
Yeah.
They turned the heat off, or turned it down.
But can I say Burr morning? And welcome to the garden.
I'm good. Okay. I was gonna.
One.
Sunday morning, I heard the preacher say, "Thou shalt not kill." I don't wanna hear nothing else about killing, and that is God's will. 'Cause our children are watching us. They put the trust in us. They're gonna be like us. So let's learn from our history and do it differently. I hope for more love, more joy and laughter. I hope we'll have more than you'll ever need. I hope we'll have more happy ever afters. I hope we can all live more fearlessly, and we can lose all the pain and misery. I hope, oh, Rosie, her man gets too rough. All she can say, he's a good man, don't mean no harm. He was brought up that way. But our children are watching us. They put their trust in us. They're gonna be like us. It's okay for us to disagree. We can work it out lovingly. I hope for more love, more joy and laughter. I hope you have more than you'll ever need. I hope you have more happy ever afters. I hope you can live more fearlessly, and you can lose all your pain and misery. I hope, must be a way to change what's going on. No, I don't have all the answers. I hope for more love, more joy and laughter. I hope you have more than you'll ever need. I hope you have more happy ever afters. I hope you can live more fearlessly, and you can lose all the pain and
look at all the people. Good morning, friends. We're glad you're here. I feel like there used to be a show called Romper Room. I see Becky, and I see Betty, and I see Karen, and we're glad you're here. God is here, so we're going to figure out what to do in the midst of the cold. There goes the folks who do stepping stones, because there's no kids here today, so we gave her the morning off. So there she goes. But we're glad you're here. And my prayer is that you're going to experience the love of God in some way. And you're going to say, you know what, I'm glad I went out in the cold today. As we can already see, there's been a few changes in our musical lineup because it's had some singers that had a hard time getting here today, but not this one. So thank you, Kimberly, for being here. I want to encourage everybody to take a look in your bulletin and, hey, take 4 or 5 home with you if you'd like to, and then give them to your neighbors and friends. But there are a variety of different things you can participate in tomorrow for Martin Luther King Day, and we encourage you to do that. Then also this afternoon, Trish, who works for the Race Equity Institute, also has some other ideas of some different things you can engage in. And we're going to send an email out later on today, or Matt will send something out with those things. So I want to encourage you to be part of all of that. The only other thing I would like to highlight is Dave Bradley's here. Dave, good to see you. We're so glad you're here. Anybody who comes late, we're greeting today. That's what we're going to do. No. Dave, you're our 5th person in worship today. We're glad you're here. No. That's right. Trish made it clear, if you want an extra donut, today is the day, or 2 or 3 or 4. So, but I was going to note that Karen has her slow cooker surprise cook-off right around the corner and needs all of our help in making that a success. We need not only your cookers full of good things, but your baskets and all those kind of things. So see Karen after service. So today we continue the hope journey. And my prayer is today you'll be able to consider the pathways that you're on, the pathways to hope. One of the pathways to hope that we have been on is right? It's Kevin? Are you next? Is Kevin next? Is our commitment to racial equity in this nation, and our true commitment to it, creating pathways this year to make that happen. And a couple of weeks ago, Kevin reached out and said, hey, I'd like to talk around MLK Day about some topics or some issues that are important to me. So, hey, shout out for Kevin. Give it up for Kevin. So
I noticed Leanne's not here to take her 5 minutes, so.
Uh-oh.
Now, we're not going into overtime, don't worry. So, Martin Luther King Jr. Day. A dream, a hope. My word for 2024, I'm vacillating between brave and honesty. Ever since George Floyd's death in 2020 and the Black Lives Matters movement, white people have become the bad guys. We're all racists, personally and systemically. And us whites are having to defend ourselves. But I'm here to tell you this morning that I am not a racist. I can't be a racist. There's not enough time this morning to tell you how my whole life has been one of solidarity with my black brothers and sisters. And after all, I have the bona fides, the street creds. As most of you know, I'm half Japanese. I was born and grew up on Air Force bases till I was 15 with a very mixed, diverse community. My formative years, ages 4 to 9 in Johnson Air Force Base, Japan, with black neighbors, black classmates, my black teammates, my fellow black church attendees. My dad had a good friend named Master Sergeant Gilchrist, who was black. And I have fond memories of my dad and Sergeant Gilchrist and other members of his softball team. After a Friday night game, they would sit on the back of their cars drinking Pabst Blue Ribbon into the midnight, and we would run around the outfield playing with all these different kids, including my friend Bobby Gilchrist, who was black. I can't be a racist. Ages 10 to 15 at Minot Air Force Base, North Dakota. Typically, families move every 2 to 3 years. And when a new black kid or foreign kid would move into our neighborhood or my school, I always reached out and befriended them and made them feel welcome. My 8th grade year at Memorial Junior High School was like the TV show The Wonder Years. I had a tight, knit group of about a dozen kids who I did everything with. The ringleader was Brenda Payne, whose mother was Mexican. Nora Self was this black athlete. Pancho Ramirez was a stereotypical Mexican kid. I don't remember his first name. When he arrived at school, I had just read a book about Pancho Villa, so he became Pancho, and I'm sure they call him that to this day. Chucky Gray had a Japanese mother and a black father. Mark Fogel's mom was Mexican. Chet Nash was a brainiac black kid. Neil Poryabinski was half Polish and half Russian. We all just got along, and they were my buds. Age 15, I moved to a small town in southern Indiana that only had 10 black kids out of 1,200 at the high school. It was a culture shock for me. Blacks and whites didn't mingle, didn't socialize together. I heard the N-word more times in my sophomore year of high school than I had heard in the previous 15 years of my life. There was a steep road outside of town that everyone called Negro Hill, and they didn't say Negro. Geodes, the geode rocks with their bumpy shape, were called Negro heads, and they didn't say Negro. I never acknowledged those things. I never laughed at all the N-word jokes I heard frequently. In college, at Eureka College, I wrote a weekly newspaper column, opinion column, and I wrote about social and racial justice issues. And one night, one of the basketball players, a black kid named Orlando, got in some trouble, was accused of a crime on campus, and members of the basketball team, the black members, approached me at 10 o'clock on a Thursday night and asked me if I would talk to the dean of students and negotiate for Orlando. And I did. A few weeks later, Lorenzo, a black leader of the student community, approached me and said that he felt blacks weren't being invited enough to be in the honor society. And he asked me if I would speak to the dean of student affairs about that, and I did. I can't be a racist. In 1996, when I was living in Fishers, and Fishers, Indiana was going through this growth spurt, where they added a new high school every year, or a new school for every year, 10 years in a row. A developer wanted to build a affordable housing apartment complex because a service worker at Kroger's or Marsh or at the dry cleaner or at the gas station couldn't afford a $900 one-bedroom apartment making minimum wage. Whites in the surrounding subdivisions started attending the town council meetings and talking about how those people would come into our community and bring drugs and crime. The grades, the scores in our schools would go down. And I started attending those meetings, and I would basically say, I think someone who works in our community ought to be able to live in our community. I was called a lot of names after those meetings, including the N-word lover name. I worked for 2 small black-owned businesses where I was either the only white employee or one of 2 employees. so I can't be a racist. Sorry, I'm losing my spot here. And I could share a lot more stories about my life and my solidarity in working with the black community to bring about equality and justice. But I also want to be totally honest with you this morning. I said earlier that I am not a racist. But I have a confession to make. I am a racist. I am a racist. I say that to echo the words of W.E.B. Du Bois, who was a 1940s and 50s civil rights activist before Martin Luther King. Du Bois said, "We are all racists. Some of us are just a little more recovered than others. We are all racists. Some of us are just a little more recovered than others." There is hope for us racists today. There is a way in which we, us white people, can be a bigger part of fulfilling Martin Luther King Jr.'s dream. I'm going to be back next Sunday, and I hope you'll join me, as I'm going to share my personal goal for 2024. To move past my racism, to make a bigger impact on the world. I hope you'll join me.
Good morning, friends. Thanks for joining me today. I would like to share our universal words of welcome, and then I would like, after we say the words, for everyone to turn around and wave at the cameras, for those of you that are watching online. So the universal words of welcome are Shalom, Salam, Namaste, Peace, and everyone turn around. There they are. Now, a big wave is definitely the universal words of welcome. So, thank you.
The cameras are up there.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure many of you have traveled and been to the, decided to go somewhere. And when you're about to travel, you have lots of hope. On the way to the airport, you're hoping that your flight isn't delayed. You're hoping for the lines at the TSA to be short. You hope you have your driver's license and it's hasn't expired, and that you have your passport in your bag. you get on the plane and you hope the kid behind you is going to behave and not kick you. You know, Betty, yes, that not kick you the entire seat. And then the flight attendant comes on and says, "Hello, welcome to flight 2024. We are prepared to take off into the new year. Please be sure your attitude and blessings are secured and locked in the upright position. All self-destructive devices should be turned off at this time. All negativity, hurt, and discouragement should be put away. Should we lose altitude under pressure during the flight, reach up, pull down a prayer. Prayers will automatically be activated by faith. Once your faith is activated, you can assist other passengers. There will be no baggage allowed on this flight. The captain, God, has cleared us for takeoff. Destination, greatness." So, thank you. My cousin in Oklahoma posted this on Facebook, and I said, oh my gosh, I actually asked to do the prayer today. So that usually doesn't happen. Yeah. But with that, please join me in this word, in prayer. Lord, thank you for our many blessings. Sometimes we get lost in just our thoughts, and we just need to reach up, pull down a prayer, and know that you've got this. We ask this in your name. Amen.
There's too many of you crying. Brother, 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 there's far too many of you dying. You know we've got to find a way to bring some loving here today. Yeah. Father, Father, we don't need to escalate. You see that war is not the answer. Only love can conquer hate. You know we've got to find a way to bring some loving here today. Oh yeah. Picket lines, sister, and picket signs, sister. Don't punish me, sister, with brutality, sister. Talk to me, sister, so you can see, sister. Oh, what's going on? 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 Everybody thinks we're wrong. Oh, but who are they to judge us? Simply cause our hair's too long. You know we've got to find a way to bring some understanding here today, right now. Picket lines, brother. Picket signs, brother. Don't punish me, brother. With brutality, brother. Talk to me, brother, so we can see, brother. Oh, what's going on? What's what's going on? Oh, what's going on? What's going on? Oh, what's going on? What's going on? What's going on? What's going on?
Yeah, she's going to do.
The ministries of the garden are made only possible by your gifts. By your generosity, we share in the big and little gives, hold meaningful services like today, and have a facility share in the community. If you have the ability to give, we thank you for your generosity. If you cannot give today, know that your presence in this community and a giving heart make the garden grow. Thank you.
Thank you. And speaking of incredible gifts to the garden, I want to thank Tessie. Last week I asked for a poster, and sometimes posters end up being profound gifts, don't they? Tessie put this together for us. So isn't it beautiful? So you put your name and your word of the year on it, and we'll have that available so we can all, and I've got the little stickers up here, and I've got a pen right here, and Becky is going to run this for me. Aren't you, Becky? Because you're a beautiful person. Yes, you do. So isn't that beautiful, though? Thank you, Tessie. It's really gorgeous. Just gorgeous. So how about that? And it's hot in here now. There's a problem. I think the room is going through menopause. There's like, so either the heat has to be on or off, and it says it's 66 degrees, but it's like 180 in here. So I think that we got lots of great people who can help us take care of that. So our text last week, today we're continuing on the hope journey. And last week we talked about Paul, how Paul always calls us to live in hope and to live in faith. But how did Paul get himself to the place in life where he could live with such faith and hope? Well, I think it was in part because of the gift of the psalmist. All right? So today our text is from the psalmist. And who are the psalmists? We don't know. David gets all the credit for writing all the psalms. But for me, for today, and for me always, and we should do another study on psalms again shortly, because what's so good about the psalms is it's like a good therapy session. Many of them are like a good therapy session. Somebody will talk about how miserable they are. They don't know why they're so miserable, and they just seek to talk through whatever the problem is. And in talking through whatever the problem is, they make it to a new point where they have a different pathway for hope, where they have a different pathway to get to God, and in the end realize, wait a minute, I do have faith in God. And that's what the author of Psalm 42 does. Now, this is the psalm, if you grew up in the church, you may have heard, as the deer panteth for the water, so as something that's really, really thirsty. That's how I desire to know God. That's the same psalm. But what we chose here was just this little bit of text, which I really like, because the psalmist says, and this is about hope, why am I discouraged? Why am I restless? I trust you, Lord, and I will praise you again because you help me and you are God. The psalmist makes their way through whatever challenge it is by talking about it. We have a hard time with that today. We are people who like to keep to ourselves. We don't like to talk through things. I have had people come to me before and say, I've lost my faith. And I'll say, oh, wow. Tell me a little more about that. Just is. Lost it. Can you tell me a little bit about the experiences around it? Tell me about when you had faith. Tell me, we don't think through why we feel the way we do. And the psalmist has the gift for doing that. The psalmist has the gift to say, Gal, I don't feel very well. Life isn't very good. I don't know, where is God? And just talks through it and talks through it and talks through it until they find a new place to be. That is the gift of the Psalms that is so often overlooked. I believe that people continue to write Psalms today if they have the courage to do so. If you have the courage to say, I've lost my faith, then take that next step and say, well, why? How? What's going on? And name those things that make you a little hopeless. And keep talking through it until you find yourself in a different place. That's the only way to make it happen. Yesterday, I witnessed somebody doing this, and I'm telling you, this should be a psalm. She said, if you're going to fall, make sure you land on your back, because as long as you can look up, you can get up. For me, that, my friends, is a modern-day psalm. For me, that's somebody who's willing to say, there are times I am going to fall on my bottom, and my prayer is that I can get to my back and I can look up, because as long as I can look up, I can get up. I love that. We have to have the courage to take those journeys in life each and every day. We have to have that courage. I have to tell you, since this series has started, there is a song that's gone through my head again and again and again. And I am going to put my music degree to work today and share it with you. Just what makes that little old ant think he'll move a rubber tree plant? Anyone knows an ant can't move a rubber tree plant, but he's got high hopes. He's got high hopes. He's got high apple pie in the sky hopes. So anytime you're feeling low, instead of letting go, just remember that ant. Oops, there goes another rubber tree. Oops, there goes another rubber tree. Oops, there goes another rubber tree plant. Kerplunk. Outstanding. You are amazing. Do you know what's amazing about that song? Is it won the Oscar for Best Song. Is that just frightening? The Grammys said, heck no, but Oscar said yes. And probably because it was Frank Sinatra, and if you didn't vote for Frank Sinatra, you would end up in a ditch somewhere or something. But you know what's so funny? How many of us, when we think about hope, think about that song? And Frank singing that song from some movie, I don't remember, with that little boy, that red-headed boy. It's about an ant. Now, something tells me that the writers of that song actually probably were Bible readers. Because, you know, there is a proverb that actually talks about ants. It's Proverbs 30, 23 and 24. It says something like this, reminds us, a few things on earth are small, yet they are extremely wise. Ants are creatures of little strength, yet they store up their food in the summer. Wise, small, strong. Something I have never been accused of being. But ants are described in the Bible as just that. And think about it. I mean, if you've watched an ant, it's been a long time for me, but if you watch an ant, right, they're very diligent in what they do, and just a little bit at a time, they take whatever it is, be it food, be it a grain of sand, be it whatever it is, and they move it from place to place. They are diligent, they are wise, they are small, and they never give up. That, my friends, is indeed what creating pathways to hope looks like. So today we continue on this journey, looking at where there is a will, there is the way. That's what the title is of this message. Where there's a will, there's a way. And the reason for that is because that's something we all know. And it's something I've avoided my whole life because I've never been into will. Your willpower, because for people who look like me, we were told we just needed a little more willpower. And it brought some energy to it. But this study is changing that for me. I have to tell you that. So where there's a will, there's a way. Where there is a will, there is a way to hope. George Herbert is actually the very first one who put where there's a will, there's a way into being. He was a poet in the 1600s. And to him, that with will, ways are not wanting. And so it is with hope. I mentioned in the book Rising, the authors put a study in the science and the theory together to, yes, help us to see that with hope, people live more successfully, people live better lives, people live greater lives. Now, what is the belief in hope? Hope is that life can be better than today, and you can help make that happen. And you can do that through having hope, way power, and willpower. Now, I have to be honest with you, after class last week, I'm a little anxious about using the word life can be better, because somebody in the room had an issue with better. And that person said, wait a minute, that kind of isn't really quite at all. I mean, really what hope is many things. That assumes that your life kind of stinks today. And hope is for people whose life does not stink today. So I guess I want to make sure that I say for that person that I believe the point is that hope is for everyone, no matter where you're standing today. So let's recap. This is the year of hope at the garden, beautiful poster there. And this is the year of building hope-filled futures for the world, as Kevin noted today, his commitment to helping do that. And we're going to do it in really real ways by creating pathways and ensuring that the garden uses its agency to transform and change the world. And I believe that this is the year where you're going to watch the garden grow, because we are a hopeful people. Last week, I shared a little bit about Chan Hellman, who is the director of the Center for Hope at Oklahoma University. It just so happens that a Tulsa newspaper started a series on hope last week, and they started with Chan. I mentioned that it's amazing what this internet can do. I just don't happen to be reading Tulsa newspapers, I have to admit it, but but they did this article on Chan, and I mentioned last week that he was homeless. This article went into a little more detail about that, which was fascinating to me. So Chan Hellman, the director of the Hope Center, Dr. Chan Hellman, who has devoted his career to studying hope, was indeed homeless as a very young kid. And in fact, at the age of 13, he was considering some drastic measures for his life. Why? Because prior to that, as long as he could remember as a little boy, his dad was a drug dealer, and his dad used his kids in his business. From taking pictures of how big a cannabis bush was next to the kid, to taking the kids with him on drug deals, because it was a lot less likely that he would get killed in a drug deal if his kid was with him. Not only that, but the kids also helped with weighing and rolling and all of those things. So at a very young age, this guy, Chan Hellman, knew more about the drug business than any kid should ever know. Now, with this came a pretty disrupted life. Now, somehow the family was able to purchase a home, a dilapidated, awful home. And in the midst of all of that, the father either ended up in jail or ended up disappearing. And then the mother, who struggled with mental health issues her whole life, also disappeared at some point. So they left their 2 children in this house that was just falling apart. And his sister ended up finding a place to live, but he did not. So that's when he, as I mentioned last week, created a shelter on the top of the school. And he would stay in that shelter at nights, get up early in the morning before anybody would get to school, go take a shower as soon as the door was open, and then be ready for his school day. That's how he lived. But at the age of 13, he didn't think he could do it anymore. And it was at that point that he was completely overwhelmed, that he was considering taking his life, that he actually decided on a particular day that that is exactly what he was going to do. He remembered that his father had a shotgun back at this dilapidated old house, and he intended, after his school day was over, to take his life. But that was the day, remember what I said last week, that the coach said to him, sat down next to him and said, "You're gonna be okay. You are going to be okay." He said when he went back and he had that cold muzzle right there, he remembered that statement and he took the muzzle away. Now, he makes it clear that life didn't change immediately in that moment because a coach said, "You are going to be okay." He was still homeless. He still had a terrible, difficult time. But tiny little ant steps at a time, Chan was able to transform his life. More like one little speck of food at a time, more like one little pathway at a time. It wasn't this big, drastic thing that happened overnight. It was creating pathways for himself that reminded him that this is a world that he wanted to be part of and a life he wanted to live. Moving our own rubber tree plants one speck of sand at a time is what Chan reminds us we need to do. As I noted earlier, hope and be better is different for everyone, isn't it? What hope and what changing life from today means for me means it's something very, very different for you. Perhaps your hope as you come here today is that by this time next year, you were able to spend some quality time with your grandkids and you have created some pathways for making that work. Maybe that's your hope for the year to come. And that can be your hope. Maybe someone else's hope, though, is that they might be able to find just a little bit of light to help them with the depression and despair that they're dealing with. Those are both pathways to hope. It holds different outcomes for different people and different ways of getting there. But all we have to do is believe just a little bit that we can move the rubber tree plants of our lives, those things that are in our ways, that are overwhelming, that we can't deal with anymore, and we have pathways to help us live a better. On this day before MLK Remembrance Day, I have to wonder if King talked or thought about hope in his civil rights movement for people of color. And in light of Kevin's message today, I guess I would ask myself, Kevin and Tricia and anybody else who works in these movements, what do you think King would say about the movement? I wonder how hopeful people who work for racial equity feel on this day. I wonder how they feel, all of us, myself included. Is the rubber tree plant really moving? Or is this a hopeless cause? As I look back, I believe King did have a hopeful moment in his journey that I think helped move the movement in a very different way. And in fact, it was in that moment that he chose to take the road less traveled, and that, of course, has made all the difference because the movement could have ended in that very moment. On the evening of January 30th, 1956, 1 month after the beginning of the Montgomery bus boycott, the home of Martin Luther King Jr. was bombed while his wife Coretta and 7-week-old daughter Yolanda were in the house. A neighbor was inside as well. The front of the house was damaged, but no one was injured. King was speaking at an event when he learned about the bombing, and of course he rushed home. And there he found a very large crowd prepared to take action, prepared to act on his behalf. The crowd cheered as King arrived, and the mayor and the police commissioner urged the community, the crowd, to remain calm, and they promised they would get to the bottom of the bombing and fully investigate and persecute those responsible. Dr. King confirmed to the crowd that his family was safe, and then addressed this anxious, angry group of people. Many of the people, by the way, were from his church. He said to these folks, "If you have weapons, with you now, which some did, take them home. If you do not have them, do not seek them out. We cannot solve this problem through violence. We must meet violence with nonviolence. That night, the crowd dispersed peacefully, and it was only after King assured them, "Go home and don't worry. We are not hurt. And remember, if anything happens to me, there will always be others to step into my place." Now, after that promise that King was given, I have to tell you that no one was ever persecuted or held accountable for those actions, which to me could feel a little hopeless. But the truth of the situation is the movement continued on, and it continues on today, one little piece of food at a time, one little speck of sand at a time. King did not lose sight of his hopeful dream, and he continued on and made it clear that when he wasn't there, others would be there. What I find so interesting is what made that evening so hopeful and so incredible was not a massive speech. It was King saying, "We must meet violence with nonviolence." It was King saying, "Don't worry, go home." Think about it. He didn't promise anybody anything big. He didn't promise that the people who did this would be held to accountability. He simply said, "We are going to stand in the hope of nonviolence. Don't worry, go home." We must beat violence with nonviolence. Go home and don't worry. As we move into a time where we're using just one word or very few words to help guide us in the future, I think King is a really good example of what that can look like. King is a good example of how we can just take a few words and they indeed can help guide us on these tiny paths that Chan talks about towards a more hopeful life. You know, King wasn't the only one who did it. There was also this guy, and his name was Jesus. And he said this, "Love your neighbor as yourself." He said, "Go and sin no more." As I said, King said, "Meet violence with nonviolence. Go home and don't worry." And one coach said this, "You're gonna be okay." Where there is a will, there is a way, and you're gonna be okay. What few words can guide you in the year to come to be more hopeful than you are on this day? Is it love your neighbor as yourself? Is it go home and sin no more? Is it meet violence with nonviolence? Is it she's got high hopes? That's how it works. Little statements, little movements. We can be a hopeful people if we have a will and a way. Amen. Come on, Kimberly, take us home. Yeah. Look at it, it's so quiet in here, the lights went out from back here. And I also want people, as Kimberly gets ready and as the band gets ready, to note the variety of boots that have made their way up front today, from Doran and Michael and Kimberly, and then if you look throughout the room, then there's the rest of us. But
lifting me higher than I've ever been lifted before. So keep it up, quench my desire, and I'll be at your side forevermore. You know your love keep on lifting me higher and higher. I said your love keeps lifting me. Love keeps lifting me higher and higher. Upward, downhearted. Disappointment was my closest friend, but then you came, you started, and no, he never showed his face again. That's why your love keeps lifting me. Keep on lifting. Love keeps lifting me higher, higher and higher. I said your love keeps lifting me. Love keeps lifting me higher and higher. All right. I'm so glad I finally found you. Yes, that one in a billion more. And I'll whip my loving arms around you. I can stand up and face the world. Let me tell you your love keeps lifting me. Your love keeps lifting me higher and higher. I said your love keeps lifting me. Your love keeps lifting me higher and higher. Your love keeps lifting me. Your love keeps lifting me. Hope means something to everybody. Higher and higher. It may maybe mean a first date. Maybe you're gonna look for a first date. The person in your life. Maybe it's gardening. Could it be gardening? Whatever it is, your hope word, God's with you no matter what. He won't leave you behind. Say it for me again. No matter what. He's with you. And even when you're in this mist and the song and you haven't come in right, he's with you. Your love keeps lifting me. Your love keeps lifting me higher and higher. Your love keeps lifting me. Your love keeps lifting me higher and higher.
Do you know these guys? These guys are singing all the parts that the girls were singing last week. That was outstanding. Okay, friends, the hope journey begins just one little tiny step at a time. You've got this. You've got this. One little phrase at a time, one little movement at a time. God's got you. Don't worry, you're going to be okay. Go now in peace. But stay for Roadmap to Hope, whatever it is we're doing. And we have a couple of things that we'd like you to consider picking up on the way downstairs. This is a great little document, and then this is a great little document if you didn't get this last week. And we're going to go down to room 111, though Union Chapel isn't meeting today, and we could run throughout the whole building if we wanted to. So go now in peace, and indeed, thank you all for being here on this day. You've warmed my heart. So go now in peace. May the love of our God be yours today, tomorrow, and forevermore. Amen.